Welcome to Mission Revive, a podcast dedicated to hope and healing through God's transforming love, where your hosts, anchored in truth and armed with faith, are changing the world and reviving hearts with Jesus, one conversation at a time.
Welcome to our new Mission Revive podcast. I'm Anne Costa, the founder of Revive Hope and Healing Ministries, where today and every day from this time forward, we are going to be sharing Catholic truth for human flourishing on the way back to Eden. So doesn't that sound exciting? We really want to focus on how the Catholic Church offers a way to mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And I'm very excited today because of the guest that we have. He has a story to tell about how the Catholic faith has helped him in his sobriety. And um, I'm going to tell you about Paul Sofranko. He is a sober Catholic, alcoholic, and a revert to the church who found continued sobriety in the sacraments and devotions of the church. He started Sober Catholic, which is a website back in 2007 after he had unsuccessfully, and I believe this because it's still the truth, searched the internet for some kind of discussion site focused on alcoholism from a Catholic perspective. He couldn't find it, so he created what he was looking for himself and for others, sobriety and recovery from a Catholic perspective. He created it and discusses how the church, with her rich traditions of saints and miracles, and especially with her sacraments, such as the Holy Eucharist and confession, can help you maintain sobriety. Now, I know he has also written several devotional books for sober and sobering Catholics. The Recovery Rosary, which is reflections for alcoholics and addicts, Stations of the Cross for alcoholics, and more recently, The Sober Catholic Way, which to me is a very seminal work and something essential for everybody to have. So I would like to welcome Paul to our podcast. There he is.
Hi,
Hello.
Ann. Hi, Ann. Thanks for
Hi.
having me on.
I was thinking back how I first heard of you, and it was through the internet. I was doing the same thing as someone who was recovering from alcoholism. I was looking for a Catholic resource, and there was nothing there, but I ran into you, and you were Paulaholic, correct?
Alcoholic, yeah.
Paul,
Alcoholic, yeah.
yeah. Where did that come from? Tell me, how did you find help with the Catholic Church with sobriety? What happened there?
Well, it's pretty much like I said. In 2001, I started attending AA meetings. Um,
Mhm.
and I really didn't want to go. And I surveyed, I attended them. I went every day and what have you. Did my 90 meetings in 90 days, and I continued for several years. But the spirituality, uh, to me, doesn't seem very deep. Mean, it's good enough to get people started, to get people focused on the right path back towards God by whatever religious beliefs or spirituality that they have. But I was also in the process of reverting to the church. I had left the church maybe 14, 15 years prior. Um, and there's a suggestion in the AA's big book, their basic text that, I forget how exactly what it says, but it's basically take a look at the religion of your childhood. And so I was already being exposed to the television programming on EWTN.
Mhm.
I was living with my mother at the time, and she had EWTN on quite a lot, especially in the morning for the morning mass and devotions. And I was laid up in bed on the couch, and that I wasn't very physically active. And so I was exposed to the daily mass and EWTN every day. And through the sermons, the homilies, whatever. I also later on in the day, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, I was just exposed to Catholic spirituality. Quite often, the homilies of the priests, the friars who were there, spoke of issues that connected to me, not necessarily literally about addiction, but also but about sin and, the corruption of the soul and what have you. Um, and it just hit me a lot better than the stuff that I was hearing in AA meetings, as valuable and as useful as they are, because the AA literature and AA meetings are pretty good with regard to practical daily applications of, how to reprogram yourself, how to react soberly to, the situations that you are exposed to on a daily basis. But it didn't necessarily reach down into the depths of my soul and touch me like, a good homily would, or reading, the Bible or some spiritual reading, like, the Imitation of Christ or something. It
Yeah.
it helped start to reprogram my mind and how my brain and how I reacted to things and such. And it helped me stop drinking, but I needed something a lot more deeper to uh, get me more focused on God and basically a spiritual framework of life.
Right. You know what I often say? I say what the world had to offer me really helped. It helped a lot
Hmm.
to get my life back on track, but it was the Catholic faith and the church that healed me.
Hmm.
It's healing me,
Hmm.
and so I'm hearing you say the same thing there that and usually when someone has had a history of addiction, any kind of addiction, it takes a while to recover that part of themselves, ourselves that is where God lives, that
Hmm.
deep spirituality. We can't go straight there. It's just there's too much there, right?
Right.
So there's certain stepping stones that we take,
Hmm.
and that, well, actually, that the Lord leads us through, I think. Would you
Hmm.
agree?
Yes, very much.
Yeah. So what was the thing that really helped the most at the beginning for you through the faith?
Well, like I mentioned, I wasn't really all that physically active. I wasn't going anywhere. For a few months, I was just laid up on the couch or in bed. So it was watching EWTN every day and, taking in a copy of the New American Bible that I had and reading it and reading the notes and such. I know the Bible is sometimes criticized by the more conservative Catholics, but it really did help me a lot. It was the reading, the language is simple enough for my sobering mind to comprehend, and the notes were, in my opinion, fairly good. And I heard a lot of things I didn't hear before about this or that Bible passage. It
Hmm.
opened my mind that there is a God. He isn't me. And it started to fill that hole in my soul. You must have heard quite often that addicts or alcoholics or everyone has like a hole in their soul, and only God can fill that hole. And this goes back to what I was saying before about AA spirituality. It wasn't enough to fill that hole.
Hmm.
It's a good secular spirituality. Um, it gets the job done as far as it goes,
Hmm.
but you know, being pulled back into the church through EWTN, its programmings, the daily homilies on the Mass, the Divine Mercy Chaplet devotion, and what have you. That just like a
So,
magnet, you know.
mhm. So the Divine Mercy Chaplet, did you really identify with mercy? Did the concept or experience of mercy, was that a part of your journey?
Yeah, I never heard of it before, even though it had been somewhat around for the previous bunch of years. I mean, Faustina was only canonized about a year or two before. And so I think the Divine Mercy devotion just started taking, major popular appeal around the same time I was reverting and sobering up. I did get a copy of her diary and I started reading it, and um, it just opened up a lot of that Jesus is love, God is love, And there is no sin, nothing that you have ever done in your entire life is, can't be forgiven. No matter what you've done, God's mercy is stronger than that. And that's what I needed to hear. That's what I try and convey, especially around the Divine Mercy season. Uh,
Mhm.
I try to encourage people to read the diary, to practice the devotion. I refer them to websites and things, what have you. But to me, that is singularly the devotion that I think is tailor-made for anyone sobering up from any addiction.
Very, very,
Considering the life that a lot of people have led, to support their addiction, the things they may have done, um, and what have you.
yeah. So you developed your website, and what can people find when they go there? What if who are searching, what are they going to find at
It's based,
sobercatholic.com, by the way?
yeah, it's basically just a blog where I write about my personal experiences with the faith, how I think the Catholic faith can help you in your sober journey. Um, I may talk about the liturgical season, like Divine Mercy or Easter,
Mhm.
a particular saint that I think may be useful to, you in sobering up or, getting clean. Um, but it's basically it's a small part of my faith journey, right? I don't talk about myself all that much. It's not really a deeply personal blog, but sometimes I do talk about me. But it's mostly basically my attempt to distill the Catholic faith so that people who are searching for something more can find it. Because one of the reasons why I founded Sober Catholic in the first place was that I found many Catholics in the rooms of AA leaving the church. They were exposed to the spirituality, and that was good enough. And a type of moral indifferentism, I think is the
Yes.
word. It doesn't matter what you believe in, as long as you believe in something. They may go to church and such, but I started seeing some Catholics in my hometown leave the faith, for other what have you. And to me, that was kind of shocking. I saw people who were Eucharistic ministers leave the faith and join some evangelical thing, which it just bothered me. So
Hmm.
I figured as much as I can, if I can, prevent that flow from stopping, even in a small part. I'm not going to get everyone, but even in a small part, um, then
Oh, that's a
that's
beautiful
that's good. Yeah,
motivation.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful motivation. It's like how can you not do something when you see somebody walking away from the
Hmm.
only thing that can save them,
I
really?
know, I know,
You know,
I know.
it's and it's a sad thing that to watch. So,
Hmm.
and does your site bring you into, do you have conversations with other people who are getting sober? Do you have uh you know, do people interact with you in some way or
Not that much actually. The comments section is usually very quiet. Sometimes there may be a flurry of activity.
Mhm.
Sometimes I get the occasional email, but for the most part,
Okay.
it's not that much of not
Yeah,
really that much of a community built around it.
right.
It's sad to say. Um,
Well, we're going to try to change that
uh,
because I really, I mean, there's such a wealth of information that you have there,
mhm.
particularly in your books. Um, well, which one did you write first and why did you write it?
There, the Rosary book and the Stations of the Cross book came out just a few months apart from each other. I
Okay.
forget which one's actually first. But they were all basically blog posts that I had on the
Mhm.
first few years of Sober Catholic. And my wife found something online about how you can turn your blog into a book. And so she encouraged me to try and do that. So I figured the easiest things to do would be to take because I had written a number of posts on rosary meditations and meditations in all of the 14 or 15 stations of the cross. So I just took those, deleted them from the blog, and rewrote them, edited them for style and content, and just self-published them through Amazon KDP, and a few other outlets.
Yes, yes, yes. And they're small volumes, so
Mm,
they're easy to use,
mm,
right? They're companion to your prayer time, your
mm,
prayer books,
mm.
uh, and they're available where?
They're available through Amazon KDP. They're also available through draftdigital.com and smashwords.com.
Smash Words.
Smashwords, yes, it's part of Draft Digital. It's a self-publishing outlet, just like
I see.
Amazon KDP.
I see. Okay. All right.
The books are available for actual print, paperback, but they're also available as an ebook
Okay. All
through
right.
your Kindle or Amazon, your Amazon Kindle or your Apple Books or Sony Reader and whatever else.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And what other book? What else do we have? We have the
There's the two devotionals, The Sober Catholic Way, and there's another book that I wrote about a year or so ago that it does not cover addiction all that much. It's called Building a Civilization of Love, a call to creative Catholics. It's my response to if anyone asks me what did I do with regard to my Marian consecration, because I consecrated myself to the Blessed Virgin Mary
Mhm.
through the formula provided by St. Maximilian Kolbe.
Uh-huh.
So I, looking at the cultural landscape and what have you, I felt that there was a definite need for something that drew attention to St. Maximilian Kolbe and what he did a century or so ago in Poland with regard to his militia, the Immaculata, of trying to use the popular culture, media, news media, popular culture, like, books and music and what have you, to try and counter the programming of the secular society because he saw back then that the forces of darkness, the forces of evil, the culture of death was using movies and books. The television wasn't around yet, but radio to corrupt people.
Hmm.
And to me, this is, in a way, it's a corollary, I suppose, to addiction recovery. But I just wanted to encapsulate what he had done and try to bring forth that to people. The book is basically has two different parts. The first part covers a lot of Maximilian and his thing, but also I wrote extensively about three Marian apparitions, so Lady Guadalupe, Lady of Lourdes, and a Lady of Fatima, and how they can help inspire people to take their Catholic faith nowadays, today, in the 2020s and 2030s, or how long we have, how they can take their Catholic faith and possibly try and translate that into creative works, whether it's novels, short stories, film, television, what have you. The second part of the book is more of a practical thing about that. But
So this is really interesting that you're sharing this. I had forgotten about your reworking that book.
yeah.
And because that you shared with me the first version of that book, and there was much in there. And I think this is very much related to recovery
Mm,
from addiction of any kind.
mm,
One of the things that addiction does is that it just zap you have no creativity.
mm,
You are robbed of that life-giving creativity that God gives us,
mm.
to reflect him in that way, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And and that's one of the profound losses, but the beautiful treasures of sobriety is that often that comes alive again
Hmm.
through your relationship with Christ, and He brings that spark back, whatever talents, whatever charisms you had that He
Hmm.
gave you, have the potential to really flourish, as we say, in a new way that reflects this spirituality, this love that you encounter. I know as that's what happened to me, none of my books would have been written if I was still trying to drink or do the things that
Hmm.
were, taking me farther away from that core of who I was. I think that's beautiful. Now, tell me again tell me that title again, and then people can get it the same places, right?
Yeah, I could get the same place as Building a Civilization of Love, a call to creative Catholics.
Yes, and John Paul too was very supportive of the
Mm.
creative community,
Hmm.
wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was. And St. Maximilian Kolbe, for those who don't know, he started a newspaper during the, right?
In the
Is
1920s, she had a
Yeah.
newspaper called the Night of the Immaculata.
Hmm.
It was a monthly magazine, actually, monthly
Okay.
or bi-monthly. He ended up later on in like the 1930s starting a daily newspaper
Okay.
to compete with the secular daily, which was very successful. But his Night of the Immaculata was a magazine, a monthly magazine, or bi-monthly, whatever, that talked a lot about Marian consecration, Catholic spirituality, Marian spirituality, and what have you.
Yeah, he's our go-to guy for that.
Yes.
Yes, he is. And that those creative efforts are what caused so much attention around him that got
Hmm.
him captured by the Nazis,
Hmm.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah. 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 So can you finish the story about the militia of Immaculata? I know you're involved with that. And it's so interesting because again, these parallels that we have. Um, uh, One of the first things that I did when I came back to the church in 95 was I went to a play with what's his name? D. Philippus. Do you know that?
Yes.
What I
Yeah.
don't can't forget. I can't remember his first name.
Leonardo Di
Yes,
Philippus.
Leonardo D. Philippus. One of the most. He's a masterful
Hmm.
talent, and he would go around the country doing certain saints.
Hmm.
And he did Saint Maximilian Kolbe
Yes.
as a one-man show
Yes.
of
That's
his life.
yeah.
And it was one of the most powerful things I've ever seen. And of course, as a new kind of revert to the church, I'd never heard of him before. It was just so profound. So, um, can you tell us? And I'll never forget that, and he is, as it turns out, he is the patron saint of drug addicts and
Hmm.
people with addiction. So
Yeah.
can you talk more about him and the militia of the Immaculata?
The Militia of the Immaculata is technically a lay association of the faithful. It's oh, Saint Maximilian had a great devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. There, there was a personal apparition to him when he was a young boy. He had done something wrong in the house, and his mother had told him, "What is to become of you, Maximilian?" Or Raymond. His birth name was Raymond, and he that concerned him. So I guess he ran off to the nearby church, prayed in front of the altar of the Blessed Virgin Mary. There's a side altar, and what is to become of me, Mama? And I guess she appeared to him with two crowns, a red one and a white one symbolizing purity, the other one blood martyrdom. And she offered him both of those crowns, and he accepted both. And that, I guess, started him on his path towards discerning religious life. He entered the Franciscans um, around World War One. He was in Italy for several years, and studying for his even for his several college degrees. He's a doctor in philosophy and theology, and I forget what else. But while he was there, he witnessed a Freemason demonstration, which was attacking the Pope, attacking the Blessed Virgin Mary, and what have you, and that shocked him. And he's dis discerned for a while to find a response to that, not just to the Freemasons, but also to the general secular trends of society,
Mhm.
some tool or weapon to combat that. Around the same time, he heard a story about the miraculous medal and how, the apparition of the Blessed Virgin Mary to Catherine Labouré, but also the miraculous conversion of an atheistic Jew by the name of Alphonse Ratisbonne. And um, and Ratisbonne was apparently converted on the spot with an infused knowledge of the Catholic faith. Uh, And that was just it for Maximilian. He felt that the miraculous medal was the weapon, the spiritual bullet to use to combat Satan and his minions on earth and what have you.
Mhm.
And so he, with along about six other friars, founded the militia of the Immaculata October 16th, 1917. It was about 3 days after the apparition of Fatima, the miracle of the sun at Fatima. And it grew slowly at first, but in the early mid 20s, he turned it into more of a focus into uh, art and culture. Started the Night of the Immaculata, the printing press for that, also other books and pamphlets on the Blessed Virgin Mary and Catholic teachings and what have you. And that progressed from there into at the time, the 1920s and 1930s, it was the largest Catholic media publishing institute, organization, whatever, on
Mhm.
earth. I like to think that he did about 50 to 60 years earlier what Mother Angelica did later in Alabama.
Yeah,
Uh,
for
the
sure.
Naz the Nazis stopped him, but nothing stopped Mother Angelica. So
That's right. Not even the church. Not
no,
even she said she used to have to fight with some bishops just to
I
get
know,
her job done, right?
I
So,
know. Yep.
sometimes you got to do that too. You got to do that too. So, um, and it's interesting the whole connection. You originally mentioned that this book came out of your consecration to the Blessed Virgin Mary, your consecration to Mary, and can you tell us more about what that was, how you did that?
How I did. What do you mean?
Your own personal consecration
Oh,
to the Blessed Mother. What led you to that? And
it was
did
a
you do the
part.
Maximilian Kolbe one or some other one?
I did Maximilian Kolbe's at first. This was back in the early 2000s, I sobered up around 2001, 2002,
Mhm.
and parallel to that was my exploration of the church, what the Catholic faith has to offer. And I guess I don't really remember exactly how I first heard of Maximilian Kolbe or the Militia Immaculata, because I was, just looking up stuff on the church all the time. But
Yeah.
I guess the Spirit led me towards him, also to St. Teresa of Lisieux and some others, devotions to her. And I just started exploring Maximilian, and it just kind of intrigued me about his militia, the Immaculata, and what he was doing with it. And so on the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, October 7th, 2002, I made my total consecration to her through Maximilian's formula of being of allowing me to be used as like a pen or a paintbrush in her hands. That's the phrase that Maximilian uses. It's not in the consecration, but that's when he writes about it. When we become hers through his total consecration formula, we are like a pen or a paintbrush in her hands to, bring Christ to others. And I think the seeds of that just germinated years later into that Building a Civilization of Love book. Because I try to revisit or bring up that theme throughout the book, that we as Catholics, we are supposed to be Christ bearers to other people. If you have a creative bent at all, try and just, do it, in any way you can, just to
Yeah.
be the leaven of the culture, I guess, sh- however you can, just to, bring people to Christ.
That's so beautiful. And so oftentimes people just um they censor themselves. They think they're
Mm,
not good enough or
mm,
some of those other lies that we tell ourselves. But the way that you frame that of being a paintbrush and or a pen in her hands,
mm,
that really just offers a level of surrender that is so lovely because
mm.
it just can flow through you. You're an instrument, right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
instruments.
Mary
So,
is the artist and we're her instruments.
yeah.
She uses our skills and our talents, whatever our personal interests are, in whatever your, cultural affinities are, whatever, the types of books you like to read or TV shows or movies you like to watch. Maybe you can adapt your Catholic faith in writing creative works for that.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's also kind of a more of a disconnect or a little bit more anonymously because you're not necessarily going out and meeting people and talking to them in your workplace or in the bus or whatever. You know, you can write under a pen name or whatever because it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It's a creative work written by you or
Yeah.
a work of film or tele or video or what have you, a
Yeah.
YouTube channel, whatever, um, that you can try. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of Catholic outlets out there to people for publish it. But
Well, we're working on that too.
good.
You're helping us work on that. Because yes, I mean, we just need, it's a critical time. It
Mm,
is such a critical time, it feels, because it's, so much of our minds, our vision, our everything, our imaginations are being captured by not things that aren't of God.
mhm,
And uh we're supposed to be focusing things that are noble and good and true. And so we've got to create that. We've got to let ourselves be used to
mhm,
create that as an alternative. And
mhm,
it to me, it's, how Mother Teresa used to say, or whatever, that starfish thing, it may just be a one tiny little drop in the ocean or just one starfish, but it means so much to that starfish, right? I mean,
mhm,
it doesn't have to be huge or grandiose. It simply has to be an expression of your love and your desire to bring glory to
mhm,
God, really,
mhm.
right?
Very good. Yes.
Yeah. So, now I want to get into the book that I just love, more than anything else, which is The Sober Catholic Way, which to me seems like it's a culmination of everything that you found, everything that you've experienced and learned since you reverted back.
That's
And
this. Go ahead.
would that be right?
That's essentially correct. You know, I wanted to basically encapsulate the message or the whole mission of Sober Catholic into a book. I think I was going through a lot of old posts of and various subjects, various categories, and realized that I wasn't necessarily living up to the faith like I thought I would. There was a lot of things that I suggested others do, but I wasn't doing myself,
Mhm.
and figured maybe it's best to have this in one particular place. And so I just decided to just pour through the blog, go through all the various blog posts, all the various major themes and what have you, and just take those posts just like I did for the Rosary book and the Stations of the Cross book, because that's what the book is from. It's just posts that I edited for style or content and length, and just there's a lot of them are combined in whatever um, into all the various topics of all the various saints and Marian devotions, things you should do. The Catholic Bible, the Catechism, just various devotions and what have you.
It really is a guidebook. It's chock full of a plan of life, or it's a resource guide. It's a plan of life. It's a spiritual treatise. It really is everything in one, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just for people who are trying to get sober, it really is a useful tool, I would think. I come in contact with people fighting addictions or who are in recovery, and I am thrilled to be able to have this to give to them. They can take a
Thanks.
little bit at a time, or
Hmm.
they can take it all at once, or they can use it over a period of their rest of their lives, really,
Hmm.
because the truth is the truth. It's never going to change. And I really thank you for writing that book. So
Thank you.
it's called The Sober Catholic Way,
Hmm.
and people can get it where?
The Sober Catholic Way is available through Amazon KDP. It's also available at the Barnes and Noble website. You can order it through a
Okay.
paperback copy there or through an ebook for your Barnes and Noble Nook.
Okay.
Um, and if you go to sobercatholic.com, there is a page called the Sober Catholic Way. You can click on that, and it gives you links to everywhere you can buy it. Um,
I would highly recommend the book to anybody um, who knows someone,
mhm,
who might be struggling or just coming back to the faith or maybe interested in coming
mhm,
back but not really sure
mhm.
because it's a really great introduction and it's so practical. And so there's my vote. Now, I have to say something. I really feel like I've saved the best for last because you and I have had this connection for a while, and I recently discovered your writings on the Sacred Heart
Yeah.
and recovery. Now, Revive Hope and Healing has a Sacred Heart Enthronement Ministry, and we're very interested in helping people, families, enthrone Jesus in their homes through that ceremony that is very simple but pretty
Mm.
profound, and making Jesus the king of their homes. And I've written a couple of books on the Sacred Heart, and I'm urging you to write a book on the Sacred Heart. I think. Uh,
I will be.
Yes, yes. So we're going to get a sneak peek of what that book is going to be about. Tell me about your discovery of the Sacred Heart of Jesus and how it impacts your recovery in your life.
Well, as most Catholics probably know, the Sacred Heart is one of the most fundamental Catholic devotions, like right up there with the Rosary and such. I always had a hard time grasping the basic concept of it. I don't know, it's the mental block. It took me a while before I finally sort of grasped that it was reparative love. Jesus loves us with an intense love. It's a desire for us to love him back. And our response to that love is to love him with an intensity, but also to make reparation for the sins of others. I think that's one of the reasons why Matt Talbot, the who, if he ever gets to be canonized, will be the patron saint of alcoholics, used that as the central theme of his recovery. I mean, he had an intense devotion to the Sacred Heart. Um, the core of the Matt Talbot way to sobriety, which is basically the same thing as a sober Catholic way, is to transfer your love of whatever your addiction is onto Jesus. And in the process of doing that, you heal yourself. Um, because the process of loving Jesus, he loves you in return, and that love helps to fill the hole in your soul. And you know, it's a different kind of love from other people. It's sacramental. You go to confession, you offer up your morning offering every day. Offering up all your pains, your sorrows, your anxieties, your fears to him in reparation for your sins and the sins of others. It's not just for you, it's also a community thing. Other people who may not even know that you're doing it for them probably don't even care. But that's the nature of Christian love. Jesus Christ died for all, not just for a select few. He died for the many. And many don't respect that and such. So we are participating in that. Excuse me.
Mhm.
We are participating in that and cooperating in that. And I think it's part of, I think, what St. Paul said with regard to making up for what is lacking in the sufferings of Christ. We are part of that whole redemptive nature of Christ's passion, death, and resurrection.
Mhm.
So let me see, about a year or two ago, as a part of my growing interest in working out the Sick Art devotion, I mean, apart from doing the 9 First Fridays, um, I just decided it'd be a nice way to connect the blog to that message. And so for about a year and a half, I had a series of posts called the Sacred Heart Fridays, which every week I would try and come up with something about the Sacred Heart of Jesus and how to apply it to people and their recovery. I think it was about a year. And the book that uh, there's going to be two actually. The book that it was going to be just like the Rosary book and the Stations of the Black Cross book and the Sober Catholic Way. It would just be a distillation of all the blog posts, again, edited for style and content and what do you call it? Length and what have you. The other book is going to be, the Litany of the Sacred Heart. I'm trying to come up with meditations on each one of the 33 invocations.
Oh,
That will be completely original. That's harder than it seems. I have in my, my writing software the litany in front of me, and I'm looking at this, various invocations like, okay, nothing's coming. So, but it'll be done whenever it gets done.
right.
But I'm hoping the two of them will be out. Well, the Sacred Heart devotional book, whatever it's called, maybe by the end of this year, the beginning of next. Because I'm also doing my priority is to get out a sober Catholic prayer book.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm finding it's basically maybe it's like a companion to the sober Catholic way.
Hmm.
It's just a standard prayer book that all prayers that most Catholics should know and say every day. But also, there's a lot of stuff that devotionals like the Rosary and Divine Mercy and the Holy Face devotion and Sacred Heart devotion and what have you. Prayers, original, the traditional prayers, but also a lot of them that I wrote. But the part that I'm working on now is there's like an awful lot of saints, not just Matt Talbot and I can't think of anybody else right offhand, who are like patrons of Alcoholics and Addicts.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of other saints out there can, who Alcoholics and Addicts can have a devotion to because there's some aspect of their lives that impinge upon the stuff that we've been doing, the wrong things that we've been done in the past, and what have you. So I'm trying to come up with original prayers and devotions to a lot of these. So that's trudging along, but
Wow. Lots of good stuff on the way.
yeah, I hope so.
I'm looking forward to that. So, in terms of your life now, um, do you still is I mean, the Catholic Church is offering you everything that you need in terms of staying sober. Would you say that?
Yes,
Yes.
pretty neat.
The hole is filled or being filled every
Oh, the
day.
hole is being, but I don't think the hole is going to be filled until you die.
Right.
But the hole is being filled, yeah,
Yeah.
between
Huh.
mass and yeah, between mass and the sacraments and my daily devotional life. Yeah.
And the day and the you just before we came on, you talked about the fact that you have a chapel nearby where that image was taken, where you have
Oh, yeah.
24 and 7 adoration.
Mhm.
Is that a big part of your spiritual life too?
Yeah, I go every Friday for 2 hours
Mhm.
to adore Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament.
Yeah. I bet you that's your favorite time of the year, the week.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I never knew anything about adoration. I was born in the Catholic Church and remained there until I was about 19. Never heard of it before. And then when I
I
came,
never, yeah, I never did either. Until it was one of those things that I ran across on EWTN, but also when I was going online to find stuff about the church. I ran across, stuff about Eucharistic adoration. Um, in my old hometown of Oneida, there is a church there that has it, and I eventually managed to, obtain an hour there. Um, so I've been in the door off and on for about 20 odd years.
wow. Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, what a treasure. What a treasure we have. That's another reason why we're doing this podcast is so people really truly understand the wealth, the treasury of the church to help us heal, to help us flourish and live full, free lives. And that's what it's about. I mean, we are authentically free,
Hmm.
correct?
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we think that the substance is the thing that is going to make us feel better or make us free or let us do, help us to feel on top of the world, right?
Hmm. Right.
And that's not true.
It's an illusion. It's a false feeling.
That's
It,
right. But the real deal is available
hmm. Hmm.
um, through the church, through Jesus
Hmm.
and his real presence. So, what would you say to anybody who's listening right now? What would you want them to know?
you you can never finish being a Catholic. It's not just a thing that you do on Sundays. And okay, it's a lifestyle. It's a way of life. It's a way of living. It should form your decisions. It should form your political, economic, and social beliefs. It's not just something that you can compartmentalize for an hour on Sunday, or if you have a devotional life, you, you go to mass Sundays or daily, whatever, and then you finish, you can go back and live a secular life. The heart and soul of your being is Jesus and the sacraments and how that manifests itself in your life and how you take that to others. One of the things that I read a lot in Marian literature, especially those that, the things that Maximilian Kolbe wrote or published by the Militia of the Immaculata, is that we are to be Christ bearers. We are to be like another Mary. We are supposed to be like Christ to other people, but we also should be like another Blessed Virgin Mary in bearing Christ to others in any way that we can.
Mm.
So it's like I mentioned, one of the themes of the building a civilization of love, a call to creative Catholics, is that Catholicism is like the perfect counterculture. We often think of counterculturalism as being like hippies or beatniks or whatever, just living on the fringes of margins of society, you know, raising your middle finger up against the corporate world and such. But
Right.
really the true countercultural movement is the Catholic Church, Orthodox Christianity, little o Orthodox. All of the fundamental beliefs and teachings of the church essentially run counter to all of the fundamental secular morals of society, from abortion to marriage and sexuality, even economics and what have you. Um, the the church lies in opposition to the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. This is not of, we're in the world, but we're not of it.
Yes,
And that's
exactly.
and that's and that's how we're called to journey on back to Eden, back
Hmm.
to the fullness of facing God and the beatitude in heaven. So, well, I'm grateful that I get to have met you along the way, and I know that I'm going to have you back again um, when those books come out.
Oh, okay.
So keep working on them.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure
I'm
thing.
really looking forward to the Sacred Heart ones.
Oh boy.
Okay.
No pressure.
Pressure's on. Okay. Thank you so much, Paul Sofranko.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless.